Hey there everybody, this is Killin' Cat, but you can call me Patrick. Trust me, it's okay, everyone does. Pikmin 216. It has 216 treasures. And a surprise launch at the very end of last year. I'm not kidding, this mod released on the 31st of December 2023. And as of February 17th, I've completed this, fully up to date, and went for 100% on the story mode, not the other modes yet. Yet being the key word. This is one of the first mods I've played that advertised it also changed, or maybe it will change, challenge mode, which is an extra 30 caves to go for 100% in, or is it 50 caves? It's a bigger number than you'd think. I always used to go through those really fast as a kid. I 100%ed it, I got purple flowers and everything as a kid, so maybe I will do this challenge mode. I will say that right away I felt a bit mixed on the colors used for this mod, and I'll get into that later, but for the most part, this is a very pretty experience. This is definitely the nicest looking mod I've played for Pikmin 2 thus far. It's genuinely very pretty. I cannot explain it in further detail, just look at what's on screen. It's this level of pretty and detailed right up until the final area, and I've never played a mod where the color direction of everywhere you explore is just this good. Anyways, Pikmin 216 or Pikmin 216, whichever you guys prefer, is an almost total overhaul of everything in Pikmin 2. It reuses every area except for the Valley of Repose, and then has a final area that's entirely brand new. Areas in order, the Perplexing Pool is now the Golden Coast, and it takes the place of Area 1. I don't feel this area capitalizes enough on being a beach-like biome, but it does well enough. And it's pretty enough. I do feel it's a bit too yellow. The caves here clearly are, to me, fairly easy introductory experiences with the exception of that last one I went through. There's a bridge in this area that, as of the version I'm playing right now, you do not want to build. It's not positioned correctly, so your Pikmin just get sucked underneath the bridge when trying to cross to get back to the onions and drown. That happens mostly on small objects, but it can happen on medium-sized objects. I have no doubt this will be fixed though, as the 216 team has been very active. The Wistful Wild has been repurposed as the Evergreen Forests, the second area in the game. It's also the area with, I feel like, the least amount of changes, and the one I forget the most. It has the least individual identity of the main four areas. It does have some of the prettiest caves though, in my opinion. I appreciate the berry placement on this map specifically, but the placement of the whisker pillars is very annoying. Otherwise, the enemy placement in this area is probably the second best in the mod. I really do struggle to say more about this from here. I like the yellow Pikmin being introduced, and the new electric gates are cool. Shamefully, they're very underutilized for being such a cool graphic. They genuinely impressed me, even though they're just a barrier-halting entry. The visual identity of this mod is superb. That being said, I forgot I didn't finish this area and had to come back to it. It just doesn't stand out as important past the visual flair. I really even had to think to remember I got the yellow Pikmin here. There is a cave near the end of the area called the Royal Grove. The 7th floor of this cave can spawn in a bunch of water pits in which a bull bear can also spawn in and, well, be killed in one of those water pits. It drops a treasure. I acknowledge this would be entirely the fault of the player, but if possible, fixing this would be nice because it's entirely possible to get here without the treasure radar, so you don't know the bull bear has the treasure. I had the radar, and since I was in the middle of combat with it, I just didn't know. I didn't pay any attention to that. The third area is a revamp of the Awakening Wood, turning it into the Autumnal Valley. I guess this fits. It's the right color. The Autumnal Valley is certainly the best area to explore, with placement of objects to furnish the environment and allow easier traversal being a genuine and true highlight. But I feel a lack of ingenuity from this area being flooded again. Yes, it is a good map, it's a really good map, but it's the Awakening Wood, add a couple paths, and water. That being said, once more, the most fun to traverse the world can be found here. Caves I don't recall a ton about except for the Water Wraith's cave, which is once more amazing looking with incredible visual appeal. It's just that this cave is so good that none of the other caves in the area stand out as much, and that is a massive shame. And the fourth area is the Sacred Snowfield. This is my favorite area in this mod. It has so much identity, it has so much character. After the Evergreen Forest, this area made me the most excited. And I don't mean like in order of excitement. No, the Sacred Snowfield far exceeds Evergreen Forest in quality and style and my level of excitement. Every time I praise the uniqueness of a fourth area, someone tells me that it's a reused asset of some kind, so I'm gonna bite my tongue on that. But if it is as unique as I think it is, then bravo. This is an amazing area. What makes this area great is, once more, visual flair. The fidelity of the artistic vision of this area is truly outstanding, and exploring it feels so right. Where every other area in this mod feels like Pikmin 2 revamped a little, this area feels like something truly brand new and with its own identity by itself. I especially love the outcroppings of out-of-place objects, but also the out-of-place objects don't feel truly out of place because of how Pikmin 2 is. They still feel like they belong in this area as obstacles, which flies in the face of the story of time displacement being told in this area. Is it a good thing that it's out of place and in place? I'll say no, personally. Maybe if they didn't match the aesthetic better. I guess if that makes sense. I'm a bit torn on that one there. Also, the Teddy Ursa statues all around are neat, but they're way too handholdy, completely unnecessary, and they don't serve a purpose. They just hold your hand way too much. The mod manages to point you in the right way to go for the final boss like 4 or 5 times, and it only needed to do it once or twice. The little arena where you enter the final cave of the game is so well choreographed, I'd say that the statues are wholly unnecessary. Maybe if the statues were placed in different spots, pointing the right way to go, rather than on the obvious and beaten path, it would work better to redirect the player to the true final cave. They don't even need to be removed, just moved around. Say, place one at each cave, pointing in the direction of the final cave, and that would be so cool. This applies to every statue except for the first one, which is an amazing set piece, and it makes every statue feel like it has purpose. Like there's something directing the player, and you don't really know what it is, it's just kind of there. The set pieces in the Sacred Snowfield are just like amazing, I love them. However, another thing is that this hand-holding is completely reversed in other places. The final area holds your hand absurdly, but every other one in comparison, the second one especially, do not. I'm not saying that they particularly need to, but I desperately would have liked a pointer to go back to the Evergreen Forest after I got the purple Pikmin. I genuinely just forgot there was anything to do there because, well, it doesn't feel like there's anything else to do there. It felt like I was done. Back onto Area 4 though, the cave placement, the berry placement, the treasure placement, the enemy placement, all of those in this area are outstanding, and I recall every one of them as if it's a second nature. It feels so natural. And speaking of the caves, I rather liked every single one in this area, except for the one with the segmented crobster. Elemental Castle is the name of the cave. I would enjoy it more if the regeneration of this boss in specific was lower. It's the only time I had to leave and grind in order to actually get a treasure from an enemy. Everything else is more than manageable if that health regen was just a little bit lower. I reset like 6 times before I gave up and came back, which is good that I can do that, but it felt so unnatural and interrupted the otherwise wonderful feeling of progression you get throughout this mod. The final boss and final cave are magnificent. I really did love those. Temporal Ruins and this Titan Dweevil, magnificent. Not so hard it makes me irrationally mad, but not easy. Plus, it's a beautiful cave. I won't say the Titan Dweevil was particularly challenging itself, but that might be because I'm so used to Pikmin 2 final bosses becoming stupidly difficult for no real reason, so maybe I'm completely deaf to that now. However, this final boss and the arena it's in are just so pretty. I talked about it in another server and people got jokingly mad at me for saying it so much, but it's astounding. I really love this area. It was also so relieving to play a Pikmin 2 mod where the final boss wasn't put in a lake, didn't get absurdly buffed, or anything like that. It feels, dare I say, well balanced and thoughtful at times. Before I get to what will be my final point in this mod, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, looks. Graphics. Look, I'm no graphics snob and I never will be. I prefer a stylized game to one that looks like it could be a picture, and this mod has style. Initially, I was taken aback by how this mod looked. I mean, that title screen is just such a saturated green color. It did not look right. And here and there, that is still somewhat true. There are moments where this game does not do as well graphically because of the unique look, but I think the trade-off is worth it. The few instances where it doesn't work in favor are confined to text boxes or the yellowish tints in the first and third areas of the game. Sometimes the greens just aren't the right shade of green to be distinct and it feels wrong to look at. And that is the part isolated to text boxes, and the yellows are just too yellow. I understand that it's the Golden Coast, but it just doesn't look quite so good to be so yellow, so saturated with one color that none of the others look right in comparison, and it makes everything be visually similar in the worst way. However, when the graphics work, they work. They work stupendously well. There was a moment I was so distracted by how good this mod looked that I walked right into a wall for a few seconds, and then I realized that and got very nervous because I was in a cave. Genuinely, the best aspect of this mod has to be its visual fidelity, its visual identity, and I could not sell this in any way better than just saying, look at it, it's beautiful. Music in this mod typically fits well as well, but there are times it just doesn't. The final boss theme I know so well from the game it's from, but it doesn't fit the final boss. On top of being a little bit crunched due to the game it's from, the boss itself needs something more savagely beautiful, because that final boss is just amazing. Something that makes you realize that what you're fighting you're supposed to be both in awe of and afraid of, and the song picked for it just does not fit. Is it good? Yes, it's amazing. It's just not the right fit for this in specific. Could I maybe suggest looking at one of the boss themes from one of the Persona games? It doesn't even have to be the final boss theme of those games. It could be a mini boss or it could just be a battle theme. It just has to fit, and currently the song used for this boss just does not fit as well as it could. Cave music also sometimes just doesn't fit. I think this is once more due to the game it's from. The A Link to the Past and Chrono Trigger songs are stupid beautiful, but they do not mesh well with the aesthetic of the other tracks when they bleep and bloop like they do. However, as I said, all the music is quite good, the selection of tracks is always pleasant, and for me, it's very nostalgic. And finally, the last point, maybe second to last if I remember to talk about treasures at some point, the story. I don't actually want to talk too much about this. I don't want to elaborate too much on what happens because what is here is really well written. The lack of changed cutscenes, though, makes it feel like this is just another Pikmin 2 mod and doesn't serve well to the general storytelling of the title, or the sense of humor used by the team that made it. I understand why these weren't changed. It's hard to do, and they had difficulties with these cutscenes, and for what's here, I think it's well written. There's not many mods that can make me break my stone-faced expression suddenly, and it's because a bunch of Yoshis are calling me scrumptious. Even environmental storytelling in this mod is actually pretty good, which is something that's hard to make come across to players in the kind of format Pikmin 2 mods are usually in, and trust me when I say this mod does not truly break the mold onto something brand new and astounding in the storytelling department. This mod simply does better than most other mods in its storytelling in general. It has some truly standout funny moments and some moments of really good writing, especially for a mod for a game I'm pretty convinced most people who are fans of don't read particularly in depth into. And I once more want to say the environmental storytelling of this mod is truly amazing. But the lack of new cutscenes, even if they would have been silly, makes the story here feel like it isn't new or it doesn't matter at first, and it'll take a person a while to warm up to it. It is quite smooth in how it moves along, and the jokes in here are genuinely good, and I think it's an absolute shame that there's a good chance people won't pay attention to what's here because the 4-minute cutscene at the start isn't any different from the base game of Pikmin 2. I'm repeating myself, but I need to say it again. again, those scenes are good, but keeping them in something so visually distinct from the source material is a massive contrast I can't overlook, and I feel something else would definitely help here, even if it's janky and not as smooth as the base game scenes. I do think there were some minor edits to the cutscenes, but not enough to make it feel substantial, because there are some sound effects that I don't recall, but hey, they're just sound effects. Maybe I'm wrong there. I also want to clarify, because I know people get really downtrodden when someone brings criticism to their project or something they're very passionate about, and trust me, I understand that. I get YouTube comments. But when I do these things, I speak in favor of improvement. These are things that a person should take in and learn from, rather than taking to heart and being hurt by what I've said. Because this mod ranges from good to great, but without the supporting scenes to tell people it's a brand new thing they're getting into, they're just going to ignore that it is for a while and think that otherwise things aren't changed. Tying into this, the progression of each area is absolutely amazing, with exception given to Evergreen Forest once more. I never felt like I was lost or needed pointers on where to go, except for once more Evergreen Forest, which really could have used something to remind me to return there, I'm just saying. Getting every upgrade, treasure, and Pikmin type flowed into a well-choreographed play from one point to another. Part of me wants to say that's because this feels like Pikmin 2, and I mean almost exactly like Pikmin 2. And that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. That means this person has managed to replicate the feel of a AAA title. And also, each area is changed substantially enough to give a different feel, but it still manages to flow just as well, if not better, than the majority of Pikmin 2 in many spots. I know this is a little bit hypocritical, but maybe when you get your purple Pikmin first, it would be good to tell the player to return to Evergreen Forest, because that will help people get right through. And by the time you get your purple Pikmin, you have every other Pikmin type and can just progress right through that area. But back on to brighter subjects and making me feel less like a nag, I do especially like the progressions of Area 3 and 4. How smoothly everything is unlocked just flows so well, and you know exactly what does what and what goes where when you do it. They're very well crafted areas. Part of me thinks it's a shame the whole game doesn't feel like those two areas in specific, but recreating the magic put into those and the special magic put into the Sacred Snowfield is a lot of work that I know mod creators can't inherently replicate every time. So what I have here at the end is a mixed bag. While this mod is incredibly good, I'd say great, it's also best in the second half and renders the first half far less impressive. It's not balanced in how good it is. It's very clear the second half is significantly better than the first. It's fair enough and challenging enough, not too hard or unfair. Some moments made me annoyed, but not in a way I couldn't overcome, and most times it was my own fault that annoyance happened. That's a good thing, by the way, because that means I messed up and I had to learn from it. That's not the creator's fault. This is a good mod. I say play it. I like a lot of what's here. I just know it can be better. There is a lot of love and care here, which that is more than abundantly clear if you play or even maybe look at my long play of it. There's a vision for what this should be, and I'd love to see it reach its full potential. For now though, half of the mod being astounding is great, and the rest of the mod is just good. The visual appeal and aesthetic of this mod are the best parts of it. I absolutely love the direction that the mod creator went for this, and I think they knew exactly what they were doing and exactly what they wanted for that. So like I said, play it, give this a shot, it's worth it. And that is it for this mod review. Thanks for watching, everyone. Support me by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Join my channel to support me financially, which is the best way to do it. And donate to me on Ko-fi down below, because that's better and less money grubbing than Patreon with all the same features. Well, most of the same features, not all of them. That's it. See you guys next time, and I cannot wait to see more mods with this kind of visual flair to them in the future. Bye. Could anyone tell I was recovering from sickness doing this? I always see other YouTubers talk about that, but can anyone actually tell?